It always mutes that when I have my Streamlabs opened, and then I have it set for the starting soon. For some reason, even though I have it set for the mic not to be off in the live scene, it still does that. But anyways, as I was saying, if you're new to the stream, my name is Logan. You can call me the Techgician. And today we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not a professional when it comes to cryptocurrency. I am familiar, as most of us are familiar with crypto. Fortunately, I'm gonna have a colleague of mine. He graduated my same year for our software engineering degree. He graduated with me, and he also is quite familiar with cryptocurrency, and he has also given a couple demonstrations and like beginner tutorials to understanding crypto before, and we're probably going to be using that's no problem. Yeah, I'm sure y'all will still be able to listen in. But yeah, he's familiar with crypto. He's explained crypto to a numerous amount of people, especially my classmates and whatnot, that may not have had a full understanding of it, and he was able to explain that to all of us. I'm still, here or there when it comes to understanding the full concept of cryptocurrency, because it goes much further than just thinking that it's a virtual currency. So if you guys are not familiar at all with it, this is a good place to start, because he's gonna be breaking it down for us around 2 o'clock, or 2:15 is when he can get some time off of work to talk with us for about 30 minutes, which should be really interesting and should go along well. Yep, cryptocurrency is digital currency like bitcoins. Pretty much. Bitcoins is just one of the many cryptocurrencies that there currently are in the world, and they all use a technology called blockchain technology. And what is really where the confusing part is once you understand blockchain, the concept of blockchain technology, it starts to really get a little more confusing when you see that every single one of these coins, well, most of the coins, apply blockchain technology in such different manner. But before we get started, I was going to pretty much just start off with a couple of videos, some beginner videos to kind of like give you guys some background knowledge as to what crypto is if you have if you're not familiar with it at all. I was speaking with our interviewee last night before, just wanted to catch up with him and talk to him more about it and get more of an understanding. Well, actually, that's not the primary source of it. When it was created by Satoshi Yakimoto, which is either a person or a group of people. It was intended during the bank crisis of 2008, when a lot of the banks were going under. It was invented at that point to kind of combat that issue. People now, yes, since it's untraceable money, may be using it for more black market reasons, but other than that, it is pretty much used by a lot more than just the black market. The black market is a small fraction of what it's used for. Cryptocurrencies in general are being more popular and used into normal daily lives, especially for small businesses. I know a lot of small businesses and even some countries, my country in Barbados to be specific. My cousin actually is the founder of, let's see, Barbados. My cousin is the founder of Barbados. That's my cousin right there, Gabby right there. But pretty much, yeah, he's the founder of Bit, and so it's been spread to a lot of different platforms. And just the black market is used now for a lot of small countries and islands such as Barbados, where they're now trying to incorporate this digital currency as a substitute for normal paper currency. Now, before I start playing the videos, one of the main reasons I kind of like, I think a lot of people, including myself, get confused when we think about crypto and think about the value of crypto is that we don't know where it gets its value from. People assume that how money or the US dollar is tied to oil, that crypto must be tied to something. There must be some I'm not really, I wouldn't want to dive into the dark web so much, Pineapple, because it can has a lot of stuff there that shouldn't really be discussed as for a business platform, if you get what I'm saying. I'm not really too keen on going into the dangers of the dark web. And I don't really want to bring it to some people's attention because a lot of people actually don't know it exists, and it will be a good topic to have, but I'll have to keep it very uh, primary, but very basic, because it is quite a large topic. I think. Oh, I thought that our interviewee had jumped in. But what I was saying is that I kind of lost my point there. Before Pineapple asked his question, yes, that could be a future topic. The dark web and the dangers of the dark web would probably be a more primary topic in the future, because it is a very dangerous place. If you're not familiar with it and haven't experienced going on it, then I would really want to suggest it unless you're capable of handling that. Possibly, yes. But anyways, so we're pretty much going to be talking about crypto and giving guys a further understanding. As I was saying, where it has an issue with most people is that they don't see the value of crypto. Like, how does it get its worth? How does it hold its worth? So for instance, we have US dollars that are tied to oil. Originally were tied to gold. You know, that has value. People pay money for oil, people pay money for gold. Where does Bitcoin get its actual value? And I think that's what people, you know, can't conceptualize. Is like, how do I know that it's real money? How is it tangible? It's not as tangible because they can't physically hold that US dollar, which is nothing more than backed by the government. And what cryptocurrency's main goal in essentially was to almost cut out banks, or not to cut them out, but to remove the middlemen from certain things, like from trading, because you know, we always have had a barter system for as long as humans have been able to pretty much form a society. We've had some form of barter system where it's, say, I'll give you this for that, and that is the equal exchange, and that's how we used to purchase things. Now, actually, I think that was in. I'm not supposed to be jumping into this because this is the same PowerPoint that our speaker is going to be using. Now, as he says, you pretty much, it started from bartering, and then it meant we moved over to more like actual, like, instead of bartering for food for something else, maybe food for wood, something like that, it moved over to like precious metals such as gold and silver, or you know, minerals like diamonds and emeralds and rubies and all that kind of other stuff is what we moved to. Now, then we moved over to government-controlled currencies, which people are very trusting of, because they, first of all, believe that most of the time that they're tied to some sort of value, whether or not that be gold or oil or something of the sort. But most of the time, the reason that people trust it so much is because it is backed by a government. You know, we can trust that currency from a specific government, especially very powerful governments, you know, like the euro, the pound, and the US dollar can be accepted pretty much anywhere in the world most of the time. Yeah, well, that value is also, you know, that's something that each human being will apply differently. Now, we apply value to stuff based off of how we feel about them, but if there's a general consensus about something having value, then usually the mob effect takes over, and the mob effect is pretty much if everybody believed that that gold was worth something, then, you know, sorry, if a large portion of people believe gold is worth something, a lot of other people would start to view it as having that value. And most of the time, it's, yeah, right, it's things that are difficult to get. And that is why crypto still has a value. People miss out on that is because crypto is not, Bitcoin is not something that you can just fabricate. How it has been created is through the process of mining and solving complex math problems to actually earn the to mine the currency. To get more of the currency, you actually have to put in work, and it's proof of work, which is what which is what Bitcoin relies on, while other cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum are more focused on proof of stake. And we're going to get more into that when the interviewee comes in. He's going to be able to answer a lot more questions related to that area, the specifics of proof of stake versus proof of work. Now, the proof of work is, even though people tend to look at Bitcoin as something that they can't understand because they don't see the value in it, it still uses proof of work, which should help people understand that there has to be work done in order for people to make money off of for their Bitcoin to have a value. Now I'm gonna show you guys a couple of videos. I'm gonna start with what is Bitcoin, even though this is like the V2 version of it, and then what is Bitcoin mining. And we're just gonna stop in between. These are pretty quick videos, and then I'm gonna head over to like this little snippet about what is cryptocurrency, or why does cryptocurrency exist. And then I also have another, I like these videos a lot, where the experts tend to break it down from explaining a topic to a child, from a child to a teenager to a to a college student to a graduate student, and then to an expert. So that is one of the videos that we'll be looking into. And then also there was a John Oliver on HBO. He did a special where he talked about cryptocurrency. It was pretty funny and pretty catchy, and a little bit give you that kind of comedic understanding, so it make it a little bit easier to take in all the information. So we're gonna go through some of this stuff, and then hopefully our interviewee will be ready to speak with us. So that should be cool. I have a set of questions that I'll be asking him. We'll probably discuss some of those things beforehand, and then when we get into it, we'll be able to talk. He'll be able to elaborate more. Hopefully we can get more than 30 minutes out of him. We got to pray for that, because he is currently at work, so he is taking his time out of his day to speak with us today, which is pretty cool. So let's just start, and the basic video here. What is Bitcoin? I thought this video was really cool, by the way.
Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower. You can use them in every country. Your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Several currency exchanges exist where you can buy and sell Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Your Bitcoins are kept in your digital wallet on your computer or mobile device. Sending Bitcoins is as simple as sending an email, and you can purchase anything with Bitcoin. The Bitcoin network is secured by individuals called miners. Miners are rewarded newly generated Bitcoins for verifying transactions. After transactions are verified, they are recorded in a transparent public ledger. Bitcoin opens up a whole new platform for innovation. The software is completely open source, and anyone can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Bitcoins are a great way for businesses to minimize transaction fees. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, and it's easy to set up. There are no chargebacks, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For more information about Bitcoin, visit weusecoins.com.
Those are pretty cool videos. So I want to point out a couple of things that they mention. Right here, he's going to say
Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency.
So when he says first decentralized, that's exactly what we were talking about before, comparing it to banks, where banks are centralized. We need to we require them, and we require specific banks to carry out certain transactions, while Bitcoin doesn't require any of those middlemen, doesn't require any specific bank. It just requires for the person giving the money or sending the money and the person accepting the money to have a Bitcoin wallet and to be a part of that network. And let me see what he says here. I think there was something about mining here.
Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower.
So that's primarily what sparked a lot of interest with small businesses in general, was that there was that lack of transaction fees. When I know specifically in Barbados, the transaction fees for using international credit cards, or even credit cards that are local credit cards, the transaction fees are like ranging from like 3.5% to like I think 3.5%, and then starts at 30 cents, minimum of 30 cents, and then 3.5%. And that is a large portion, and that adds up. And a lot of the times, banks are making a lot of money off of handling these transactions. Now, you're gonna ask yourself, well, why does Bitcoin not cost that money? It's because it doesn't have that middleman. The middleman being the bank, or being those what is it called? There's a name for them. It's not just a bank, but they also have to have a license. It's a money transferring company or something like that, but they actually have to have a money transfer license. Okay, so the interviewee has slid into my Discord server. I just got that notification. But yeah, you actually have to have a license to transfer money, even if it's as simple as, you know, you're making an app for, or you have an app that charges for gas. You know, you have the app, people pay you, and then you pay the they pay through the app, they connect their. I'm actually not 100% sure if there, I don't believe there is, because there's no restrictions. He just mentioned that there's no, like, you know, background checks or you know, like credit checks, anything like that. I think he mentioned it right.
You can use them in every country, be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary.
So there's no prerequisites. For that reason, I don't believe that you actually need to be above 18 years old. And guys, if you are under 18, and you know, you should, this is kind of stuff that I would get familiar with now, because I estimate that within 20 years it's going to be a large part of our market. You know, the reason that this has been given such kickback is because banks don't want something like this to be implemented, and they often like to keep people, they want people to be as confused about Bitcoin and about cryptocurrency in general. They want them to be confused about it, because then people won't hop on that train and won't rely on banks for A, storing their money, B, sending their money, and D, then C, receiving their money. I went from A, B to D. Nice move there. But yes, so besides learning about the alphabet, that is, yes, so that they want people to not know that crypto can do all these things without relying on them, and that way, you know, kind of eliminate the middlemen entirely. And so that's the big fight back that crypto or cryptocurrencies in general face, is that banks don't want people to pick up on it, and banks don't want people to be like, hey, this is something I can actually sorry, not banks, but people that have bank memberships or whatnot, to pick up on it and be like, yeah, I need to hop on to crypto, and then they start spending all their money that is in the bank, using their bank account to start purchasing cryptocurrency. And when that's the case, then, you know, they lose a lot of business. A lot of the time, banks make a lot of money from, you know, over transaction fees, or sorry, what's it called? Transaction fees is a primary one that they make, because every bank has to process a transaction. You know, when money is sent from one place to the other, there has to be something that's processing that transaction, and there is a charge that all companies have to pay. You may go into a store and use your credit card, or use a debit cards are different, but use a credit card, and think that, you know, something costed $19 and you paid $19 for it, that was it. Well, truthfully, yes, you paid $19, but most of the time the company itself, the business that you're purchasing the product from, had to swallow the fee. So they didn't end up getting as much profit as they wanted to, so they would lose money based off of just requiring to use that transaction, like requiring them to use that bank. They had no choice. They have no choice until Bitcoin came about in 2008. They had no choice. It was pretty much, yeah, you had to go through banks to handle transferring any money, no matter what you were purchasing, no matter what you were selling. Other than that, you had to, you know, if you, as you were saying, you know, black market stuff all required, you know, a lot more routes. So that's why maybe, you know, people lead to Bitcoin it being only for black market, because it's untraceable and you don't have to worry about the same stuff you were talking about, you know, the stipulations, the age, you know, your credit, anything like that. However, there's so much more to it than just that, and I think that's put a bad stigma on it. People kind of just assume that it's exactly what you said. It's used for buying stuff on the black market, when the truth is, in the next 15 to 20 years, this could be used to purchase everything that you own. I'm not only referring to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is just the first to do it and the biggest in the game, because they were the first to do it, so they're most credible name, and that's why people trust them more. And that's also, I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I'm going to, on our interview, is probably going to talk about that a lot as well. That trust plays a big part in why people are hesitant to use crypto. Is that because, you know, they just don't trust where the money is coming from, or where it has its value. Value is the real thing. But I wanted to show you guys this, because most of the time people don't understand what is the mining part of it. People are like, how do people mine cryptocurrency? This just explains how you mine Bitcoins.
Bitcoin.
And guys, once again, you know, I'm not an expert on cryptocurrency, and that's why I'm very excited to have our guest speaker in there. He may not be an expert on it, but he is definitely more knowledgeable than me, and he can full on answer my questions and into more detail. So I'm excited for that.
Bitcoin operates as a peer-to-peer network. This means that everyone who uses Bitcoin is a tiny fraction of the bank of Bitcoin.
See, this is I think the part that threw me off was like, how did it start if it pretty much has its value, or it's pretty much made up of the people that use it? How does it start? How does a Bitcoin start when it requires people to be a part of the network, and in order for the network to prosper and grow? Now, that's one of the questions I'm definitely going to be asking our interviewee, because that is probably the hardest thing for me to conceptualize, is how did Bitcoin start? Like, how did it gain its traction? How did it start from the same, what's his name? The same Satoshi Nakamoto. How did it start from him writing this code, creating the algorithm that runs for the Bitcoin network pretty much runs on and is required to run on? How did he get from that point to having enough people in the network for it to actually make money? Because the kind of understanding that I've gained from it is that you require people on the network to make money off of it. You can't make money with crypto unless you have people that are involved in using your crypto. So it's not like how, banks have US dollars, which technically they only have a value because people use them. But let's imagine that you just didn't know that, and you assume, okay, yeah, money is money. Paper money is paper money. It has a value, so I'm going to use it. But originally, paper money wasn't something as easy to just say, yeah, we're using that. Like, it was also a big jump for people back then, when they were jumping from, actual tangible valuable things such as precious metals and minerals, to jumping to a paper currency that anybody can print, whether or not it was printed on cotton or whatnot. Anybody can get those things, so what gives it that true value? But at the time, it was tied to certain things. It was tied to gold. It was tied to it was tied to gold. It was tied to oil. It was tied to government agencies, like the entire government. That gave it that backing, and then now it became. But in those beginning stages, I'm confident that it wasn't something that people were just so keen on picking up and jumping over to start using paper money. I don't believe that is something that was a quick and easy process. And that's the same issue with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies in general, is that it's in that same transition period where people have to get more of an understanding and gain more trust in it. And that is where I'm keep on going back to this trust, that it comes down to trusting the network. Now, what was the video I wanted to show? It was this one, but yes, I do want to.
But where did
give you guys a little
Bitcoins
bit
come
understanding
from?
for where did the Bitcoins
With
actually
paper
come
money,
from.
a government decides when to print and distribute money. Bitcoin doesn't have a central government. With Bitcoin, miners use special software to solve math problems and are issued a certain number of Bitcoins in exchange. This provides...
That's where the work done. They're actually, the coins are not just coming out of thin air. They have to solve mathematical problems that, whether or not it was a human doing this prior, the human is no longer doing it. The computers are autonomously solving these math problems, but they require, a human to purchase the machine, to actually have the graphical processing unit or the computer that is doing the solving, that is running the software to actually solve the problems.
It's a smart way to issue the currency and also creates an incentive for more people to mine. And since miners are required to approve Bitcoin transactions, more miners means a more secure network. The Bitcoin network automatically changes the difficulty of the math problems, depending on how fast they're being solved. In the early days, Bitcoin miners solved these math problems with the processors in their computers. Soon, miners discovered that graphics cards used for gaming were much better suited to this kind of math. Graphics cards are faster, but they use more electricity and generate a lot of heat. The first commercial Bitcoin mining products included chips that were reprogrammed for mining Bitcoin. These chips were faster, but still power-hungry. ASIC, or Application-Specific Integrated Circuit chips, are designed specifically for Bitcoin mining. ASIC technology has made Bitcoin mining even faster while using less power. As the popularity of Bitcoin increases, more miners join the network, making it more difficult for individuals to solve the math problems. To overcome this, miners have developed a way to work together in pools. Pools of miners find solutions faster than their individual members, and each miner is rewarded proportionate to the amount of work he or she provides. Mining is an important and integral part of Bitcoin that ensures fairness while keeping the Bitcoin network stable, safe, and secure. For more information about Bitcoin mining, visit bitcoinmining.com.
So I think a lot of the time, especially for me, where people like kind of like disconnect is how, you know, what are they, when the mining I think kind of throws people off, is like what are they mining? Are they're sitting down there with a pickaxe, or they're really doing that? And I guess that's why they're using these visuals here to kind of like give you that kind of that representation. Now, I think, you know, what threw me off was understanding where are they getting these problems, where does the math problems come from, and how do they start solving. So that's one of the things I'm gonna, you know, actually ask the interviewee, and hopefully he can give us a little bit of insight on that, because I think that's where that disconnect is really coming from, is with when it comes to mining, is where are they getting the problems and how are they knowing that they have to solve these problems. But essentially what I've gained from most of these videos and stuff that I've listened to and I've heard is that it is pretty much the entire Bitcoin network, and I'm going to focus on Bitcoin. I'm not going to, cryptocurrency is different than just Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just as one type of cryptocurrency, but it's the most readily known, so I'm going to use it as an example. That the more people on the network, this guy mentioned that the more people on the network, the more miners on the network, the safer and more secure the network is. But the truth is, now that Bitcoin has gotten such a large amount of miners, it no longer makes money only on solving the mathematical problems, but also validating the transactions. And when I say validating transactions, I mean, if I sent money to your crypto wallet or whatever, from my crypto wallet to your crypto wallet, every single node in the network, every single entity in the network has to confirm that transaction is valid. And yeah, so that is where they now are starting to, you know, that is where the money for Bitcoin comes from now. And essentially in the beginning, I don't think that's how it worked, because it required people to actually solve the mathematical problems, which they still do, which is constantly developing the blockchain, increasing the blockchain in size as it goes on. And I'm going to get into blockchain too in a little bit, because blockchain is the technology that all cryptocurrency is relies on. It's pretty much, that's what it uses. But that right now, what a lot of the miners are required to do, or the nodes, is to confirm that a transaction is valid. And that is where, you know, people are like, how is it, where does this money get its value from just validating transactions of itself? Yeah, and that's the hard part to really understand, is how is it validating transactions of its own coin and considering that to be of value? And that's where I really disconnect as well. I kind of find that hard to conceptualize how that's where I also talked to you guys about how did it start? How did Bitcoin start if it now requires, you know, the process of validating transactions, but when there was no transactions and no one was using the network, how did it evolve? How did it get to this point? And that's one of the things I really want to talk about with the interviewee, because I'm a little lost for words when it comes to understanding that portion of it. And then when you get into, guys, I'm just kind of just going through some of the, like, you know, the questions that I'm going to most likely be asking the interviewee. But when it comes to blockchain, we mentioned that blockchain technology is the technology that all cryptocurrency is based on. Now, that does not mean that there is one application of blockchain technology, which I assumed, or essentially, like, that was the first thing I assumed. It was like, okay, Bitcoin has an algorithm that it has to follow. Miners are solving complex math problems, and through solving these complex math problems, they are rewarded cryptocurrency. They're rewarded Bitcoin from solving these math problems. That's what I essentially got from it. But oh geez, I keep losing my train of thought. I keep reading things on my screen and jumping around the place. I'm losing it. What was I saying? Oh well. Help me. Help me. Yeah, Stanley passed away yesterday. It's pretty sad. But yes, you guys, it made me, you're not reminding me where I was. I was just talking. I was just reaching a great point. I was reaching a good point. I was on a good point. I was on a good, yeah. So they started by rewarding people for math problems, and then, you know, eventually it got to the point where, you know, people are using these coins, and that's how they're getting. So they got the money, they got the Bitcoin as an incentive. They were getting rewards for solving the math problems, and I think that's where it started. So I know that's where it started, and then eventually evolved to the point where the currency that they were being rewarded, the Bitcoins that these miners were being rewarded for their, you know, actually solving complex math problems, using machines that are doing it autonomously, because these complex math problems, no matter what they are, would still have to be solved using a human, but they, you know, they're using computers, since computers can be programmed to do things autonomously and much more efficiently. So after that, when most people started to use it, and the miners became so popular, it was like there's a lot of people mining this currency, so therefore there is a lot of people that are using this currency. And then it started to go into validating transactions, where a miner no longer, crypto no longer requires just people to mine and solve complex math problems. It now requires to validate transactions so that people can make sure that they're actually, no one is altering the network. No one is trying to edit things, because since the code is viewable, guys, we just saw that you can go, this is open source code that you can go and see, that there's no one that can edit the code or edit anything within the code that could possibly change how a transaction was done. If I sent you $10, or sorry, 10 Bitcoins, which is a lot of money. If I sent you 10 Bitcoins, if I sent you that 10 Bitcoins, there's going to be a ledger. In each node has the ledger of every single transaction that was ever made with Bitcoin. So if from the beginning of time, since they invented Bitcoin, each node within the network, and there is probably hundreds of thousands of, there's probably hundreds of thousands of nodes, yes, because there's hundreds of thousands of blocks in the blockchain. Hundreds of thousands of nodes have all of that history, every single transaction history. So when I send you that $10, they know about that transaction history. They get that information. They have it in their data. They have it included in each node. Now, if I was to try and edit that and say, oh, he didn't send 10 Bitcoins to, I didn't send 10 Bitcoins to you, I sent 10 Bitcoins to the person obviously being the bad person, the evil person being them. They are trying to reroute those Bitcoins from you to them. So they're saying, no, they edit it and say, no, well, that transaction should actually be heading to me. But how it works is that all the nodes then have to validate transactions. So they're not only, how they validate the transaction is a node that has been edited to say that, hey, all of this coin should be coming to me. They then other nodes, neighboring nodes, look at this transaction and say, hey, this transaction doesn't make sense. It doesn't match up with our history. And when it doesn't match up with the history, then that entire node is blacklisted. It is said as, no, this is not real, this person is trying to do something bad, and they blacklist that node. So now that's where a lot of because it's so readily available and people are using Bitcoin, majority of the power and influence it has is based off of validating its own transactions. But it had to get to that point. And I think and everybody says, what does Bitcoin do? And the answer that everybody says is it validates transactions. And people are like, what does that mean? How can you tell me that you make money off of validating your own transactions? How does that work? But it had to get to that point, and that's where I have kind of drawn from it. It had to get to the point of it validating its own transactions. It had to get to the point where there was enough miners that were mining and solving math problems, that there was enough Bitcoin. Because remember, guys, the miners had to be rewarded Bitcoin based off of their work that they did. They had to use computers, they had to use processors, they had to put the time into solving these complex math problems, which they were rewarded for Bitcoin. The more miners that came into it, the more rewarded Bitcoins came of it. The more Bitcoins that they were in circulation. No one can program and say, hey, there's a bunch of these Bitcoins. I'm not sure. I think that was the interviewee is getting about to jump in. Keeps jumping in and out of the Discord chat. But yeah, so now that there's this surplus of Bitcoins that these miners have earned, there is now becoming the process of trading, where they're buying things and selling things using this currency that has a value based off of work that was done. It's the same concept as if you spend all day working, and I had to kind of build up into this because in the beginning of talking about this, I kind of Lost my train of thought a lot, but now I'm getting to the point. You know, it's the same concept as you do work at your job and you are paid for that work. You did stuff. These coins are not just fabricated, they're not just programmed to come out of thin air, which a lot of the time people think they're just, oh, they just made these coins. No, that's not how it worked. These coins had to come from people doing the work. And then once there was enough of these coins in circulation, they started to approve, well, they didn't have to start, because they always had to approve transactions, because they knew that the intentions of this was to develop a currency. Whether or not it was to develop a system of solving complex math problems, it was also with the intentions of it becoming a usable currency. So from the beginning, it had the algorithm in itself was programmed to validate transactions. Now, once it got to the point where it could really validate transactions was when people started to use the coins. When coins were being used to for trade. And once that happened, then you know, it really started to increase. They got more people that were jumping on. They got more miners, and the more miners that came about, the more bitcoins that were produced, and it was just an exponential growth at that point. So that's pretty much where I am in my understanding of it, and that's how I want to talk to the guest speaker to see if what I'm saying makes any sense, or if it is, facts, because I don't want to spit a bunch of random stuff at you. But based off of what I've read and based off of what I've watched and what he has explained to me, or anybody else that has explained to me, is that is how Bitcoin has its value. And people, I think, now just omit the beginning stages or what it really does and just think that, oh, you're just solving complex math problems. How is that worth anything? Well, if there weren't these complex math problems, which, whether or not, I think probably the disconnect is where people are like, where are these complex math problems coming from? Why are they required to be solved? Those are questions that I think, and what are the questions I'm going to ask in the interviewee, because I want to know that. I would like to know where are these problems coming from and where are they applied to, so that to give people an understanding as to why they are important. Why are these problems being solved? Are they just random math problems that people are just throwing out of the wazoo? No, it's not really like that. And also, if you remember the other video where they talked about the complex, or this same video where they talked about the math problems growing in size, yes, that was from the beginning. The math problems were easy, and then they grew and grew and grew and grew and got more complex and more complex. And at the end of the day, guys, it's not at the end of the day, guys. At the end of the, I'm not even gonna try and repeat what I just said. At the end of the day, guys, oh my gosh, dude, where is my brain today? Laundred, can you please help me find my brain? Because every single time I stop talking, all my memory just dissipates. It's not good right now. It must be like Wednesday. It's Wednesday, Logan. You need to go. It's throwing me. It's crazy. Anyways, before I start, jumping into all that, I'm gonna give you guys a 5-minute little. It's in my head. It's in my head. I'm supposed to be talking aloud, but for some reason I'd be jumping to different topics in my head. I can't finish the one topic. We're gonna leave it at that. But yes. So why does cryptocurrency exist? Cryptocurrency is for pretty much trading. It is like money, but without any third-party involvement. With no banks, no credit card companies, nothing. No small businesses that handle transactions. I think it's called a money transferring license service. Yeah. Now, to get a money transferring license, or to be a money transferring transmitter license, is a money transmitter license. That's what it is. In order to get a money transmitter license, you have to have like a net worth of over $2 million. It goes into a lot to actually be able to transmit money, to take money from somewhere and put it somewhere else. That is costly, and that is why there are these transaction fees. That's why there's these 3.5% fees on every single credit card transaction that happens. I'm not sure if it's that high in America, but I know back home it is. And that is why there are these companies that are pretty much dedicated to doing this money transmission. They didn't just get to come out of the water and say, hey, I'm now taking money and sending money. No, they had to have a lot of financial backing. They had to have a lot of a good reputation in order to actually get the license that allowed them to do this. Now, what Bitcoin does is it pretty much just says, hey, we don't need any money transmitting license. We're done dealing with that. We're going from user to user. We're building a network filled with people. Each person could be represented as the node in the network. All of these miners, or all of these, not even miners, because, well, technically holding Bitcoin. I don't think that considers as mining. All of these people that are inside the network, all the nodes in the network, are sending money to and from each other, as simple as that. They are not requiring anybody to govern this sending of money, receiving of money, and that is why these people are cut out, and that's why they're saving a lot of money in, well, by they, I'm referring to people or companies that accept Bitcoin or spend Bitcoin, are saving a lot of money by cutting out these money transmitters. These are not who you want to, they're taking a large portion of your money unnecessarily. And right now, the reason that it is so evident that people are not jumping from using money transmitters to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general is because they haven't been doing it for long enough, and also there are not as many people using credit cards as using Bitcoin as there are people using credit cards. Right now, there's a lot more people in the world that are using credit cards and debit cards than they are using cryptocurrency. And that is the funny part about all that is that credit cards and debit cards are the first start to pretty much electronic money. That was the version of electronic money. You gave in your money to a bank, or credit is a different situation, but for a debit card, you gave your money to a bank, and that is how you received their money. You got the equivalent of that money in your bank account, right? Is that not technically not a hard copy of your more like a soft copy of your money? It's not a hard copy of your money. You're not getting the bills. Of course, you can withdraw the bills, but that's also what you have to do. You have to withdraw. You have to go to the designated bank, or you go to another bank that is not your bank, and you have to use an ATM, and they charge you like $2 just to pull money from the ATM. We're not even gonna get into that. It's another form of way that they're causing people to spend unnecessary money. But yes, debit cards are pretty much, in a sense, a soft copy of money. It's not cryptocurrency. It's not quite cryptocurrency as yet, but it is pretty much that middle way. It's heading to that. If you see the pattern, guys, it's heading to cryptocurrency. I personally don't like to keep cash on me. I don't like to have cash on me. I like to have a credit card. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to lose my wallet. If you lose your wallet with your money in it, it's gone. That's why debit cards and credit cards are a little bit more secure, is that you can always just cancel it and then hop on. Oh, boys, who jumped in? Mic check. Working.
Yep.
I can hear you better now. But yes, everybody, I think it's catching up a little bit. Our guest speaker has jumped in to my Discord. I think it's pretty choppy right now, to be honest. Are you? It's really choppy. Disconnect and jump back in, guy. I hope you guys are getting your questions ready, because after he answers my questions, he's gonna be able to answer you guys' questions. So please get your questions ready. But yeah, guys, if you can't understand, there's only a little bit of stuff that I really know about this, and I try to put it together as much as I can in my head to understand it. But I do want to keep this as a recurring topic, because I want to learn more about it, and I want you guys to learn more about it. And the only way to do that is to talk to the people that know a lot about it.
Test. How's that? Is it better?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Alright, sweet.
Yes, guys, so this is my colleague from school. We both graduated in the same year. Boyce Polion Jr.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing?
I think everybody's doing all right. I was just pretty much doing an intro for this interview, and trying to give people a little bit of background information about cryptocurrency. But yeah, pretty much I explained to them that I'm not an expert when it comes to it, and there's still a lot of gaps in my knowledge. When even we spoke last night, and there's just a lot of gaps in the knowledge. Even when you were telling me something, it's hard to conceptualize it sometimes, because it's not as straightforward as as a bank would be. This is it's tied to gold, or it's tied to oil, and this is what you get. And this is what you get from it. Whether or not, well, cryptocurrency is every single different type of crypto can be given their value through different methods, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, the how you assess the value of crypto, or how you assess the value of anything, is determined by a group of people, or a big group of people, you would say. Because when people disagree on the value of something, then the price either goes up or down. It's the stock market. Every single day, things are valued um, based on other people's, opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. And one of our people in this stream right now had mentioned that doesn't. I think it was here. He had mentioned. Where was it? He said, "Isn't value given to stuff that there are very few of, and that people want, and that people use a lot?" Um, and it's
It's a
mostly
concept of supply and demand. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And so it
if
really
there's a,
continue.
so yeah, I was saying, if there's a low supply of something that everybody needs, then obviously that is a very valuable thing.
So can't it be said that then if there's a, because I know that when Bitcoin was founded, it was founded in 2008, and during that time period we were going through, the I think it was the market crash, the housing issues that was going on during that time, and a lot of banks were going under. Could it have been, the reason that there was that demand was that there was that demand for that decentralized form of trade without requiring banks to hold money, to send money, to receive money, and that kind of is what gave it its initial value. Because I think a lot of the time people don't understand what gave Bitcoin its initial value besides just the proof of work.
Right. So initially, the value of Bitcoin was kind of just like, on Reddit, how you can up and down vote things. As people who knew what Bitcoin was back in 09, 10, 11, whatever, they kind of just gave it to content creators, and just friends and family members as like a thank you, or it was kind of just like one of those little, it's like an emoji, but like a nice one that you have to pay for. It's kind of like,
Oh wow! So could it
one of those.
so could it be similar to then to what's it called, Twitch's form of currency? The
Yeah, 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 exactly.
so
Yeah,
that's
that's
initially
how
what
you.
gave it its value.
Yeah, that's what it was used for, because people
Didn't
at
trust.
that time really didn't know too much about blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. And the people who did understand it, they knew that, obviously they knew the value of it, but for the general public, people really didn't recognize it. And chaos was happening at that time.
Yeah,
2008, 2009, it was the crash. So
and a
yeah,
lot of
nobody
time
was.
more people were interested in how to get their money back rather than
Yeah.
figure out a new process
So
of
then,
having
yeah,
their money.
exactly.
So you mentioned blockchain, and I think that's one of the big things that threw me off, or would throw anybody off, was how does each one of these cryptos use blockchain technology, and how do they use it in different ways to apply to their specific cryptocurrency? So could you give us an
So
explanation as to what is blockchain technology?
yeah, so blockchain technology is basically the structure of how um, you know digital ledgers, blockchains are created and shared across the network.
Okay.
So no, I mean, most, if not, I want to say, yeah, I'll say most. I don't want to say all, but most cryptocurrencies, you know, are based off of blockchain, or sorry, are based off of the Bitcoin blockchain. There are some cryptocurrencies that have their own blockchain technology that's a little bit different than how Bitcoin is run. So there's differences.
So so speaking of that, when you said that a lot of them use Bitcoin's method of blockchain, what is Bitcoin's blockchain use? Like, I know you mentioned that it was an algorithm, and everybody has to mine for solving complex math problems. Is that what pretty much the blockchain is made out of? Is just the solving of these complex math problems?
So the solving of the complex math problems, yeah, is a part of the algorithm of the blockchain itself. For instance, for Bitcoin, it's it uses a public blockchain. So it's a large distributed network that's run with a coin in mind, Bitcoin, the currency itself. But there are blockchains that don't use coins at all. Like, I believe the private sector has already been picking up, and lots of corporate companies have already been picking
Yep.
up blockchain within their own companies to streamline certain processes of, validating work, or validating that, certain processes have been completed that doesn't really need a human to oversee it, as long as, a box is checked off yes or no, 0 or 1. It's very it's very nice. Blockchain is very nice.
Yes, and I've seen that even in, I think Verizon was having a I'm pretty sure that Verizon at one point is trying to implement that as well.
Yeah, lots of companies, even the company I currently work for, they're definitely dabbling with blockchain technology and kind of just tweaking it for their own uses.
Okay.
Um, yeah, since the release of Bitcoin's blockchain, a lot of people have, tweaked the the concept to fit, something that would benefit their own business or themselves or something like that. Like, you have the public blockchains that Bitcoin's based on, but then you have private blockchains, like I said, that companies create, or regular people create for their networks. They tend to be smaller, and they don't utilize a token, but they have um, you know safeguards on membership. So like certain people can't even access the blockchain without being invited to it. So it's kind of like, it's basically a whole nother tool for networking.
Okay, so that is, I think that's the basis of it. You would say that it is pretty much a method of a networking tool, essentially.
Right, connecting people together without having a human to oversee all these connections.
So we had spoken about trust before you jumped in, and would that be that where that lack of trust and why people disconnect from you wanting to use cryptocurrency and wanting to using blockchain technology with crypto, and how crypto comes from blockchain technology, that lack of trust being that computers are doing most of the work, and that there's no human interaction, so they can't really apply that value to Bitcoin or to any cryptocurrency because they don't see the computer as doing work as actual work. Is that where that
So,
disconnect could possibly be coming from?
so in terms of, why a person would be interested in blockchain technology, specifically, the utilization of blockchain technology with currencies, is, yes, it takes that trust out. It takes the trust out of the equation for, you trusting a third party, which is another human. But you still have to trust that the network is safe.
Yeah.
And normally, the bigger the network becomes, the safer it becomes. Because the bigger it is, the harder it is to take it down or to corrupt it.
Okay.
And I would say most people would probably trust mathematics over, you know, human emotion any day.
Yeah, but even though that is the case, what would be that disconnect? What is causing people to not jump and start using crypto? Whether or
It's
not.
because they're unfamiliar with it. I mean, governments and banks all across the world have a system in place, fiat currency, that everybody understands. It's simple. You go to the bank, you get your little bit of cash, you go buy your groceries, pay your bills, and now everything's obviously done online. So all you have to do is open up your phone, go to your bank app and transfer your funds however you need,
Yeah.
however you need to. And to be honest, crypto, since it's solely online, it can provide the same functionality that our current banks do. It's just at this moment, the scalability of cryptocurrency could probably, handle all the world's transactions if you put multiple cryptos up for use.
Yeah.
Is to replace the current system, but like any one cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin alone, can't,
It doesn't have the market
operate a
cap. It
global.
doesn't have
Yeah, it doesn't
that
have.
much value because guys, there's every single cryptocurrency has a cap of how much money it can possibly.
Well, that's just an evaluation of how much money is invested into, a particular, like a particular coin. But that's not that doesn't say anything about the functionality of the coin itself. Bitcoin itself is what I'm saying is it can't handle a whole entire global economy until,
It has enough people on the
everybody,
network.
yeah, everybody's got, a node in their back pocket. Like if blockchain technology, if Bitcoin was able to run on a cellular device, which, I mean, maybe it can at this point. I don't even know. But if it could, then that would increase the scalability, and then scalability wouldn't be the scale of Bitcoin wouldn't be a problem, and the world could adopt, Bitcoin as a world currency.
So you'd say,
Um,
you pretty much say that the only combating of Bitcoin is that banks and other, or the currency, the system, that way we handle currency, is what is preventing Bitcoin from, or cryptocurrencies from replacing it. People are just, they know what it is, they're familiar with it, they're comfortable with it, and it's just basically, is it that's really holding it back, and it's just going to take
yeah,
that
it's the
time.
old system is ruling right now. It's just kind of like how we all know green energy is better for the world, better for everything.
Yep.
But the reason we're not converting to it is because the old world, the industrial uh, age, is still kind of in charge when it comes to energy. So it's like with money, banks and governments are still in control. So for as long as they hold the control to the economy and to our lives, because I mean, everything, the more civilized we become, the more we need money
Yep.
in order to survive. So it's like, as long as they keep control of the one thing that controls everything,
Pretty much.
then, they have the power. But when they take, if you want to convert to cryptocurrency and convert the whole world to cryptocurrency, now you're taking something that controls the world, or sorry, you're taking something that are in the hands of the governments and big banks and stuff like that. You're taking, their leash away.
Okay, so does that mean that they are? I kind of touched on it earlier, that there's a possibility that a lot of banks and world governments are who are giving Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies all the backlash, and just trying to fill people's
Yeah,
minds with it not being
yeah,
safe. And
yeah.
could you explain to me? I think that's a big topic. Is what, when people say that Bitcoin is not safe, I think, it goes more than just thinking that anybody could just jump on and add their money and say, hey, this is how much money I have, because it's just, people don't see it as actual attainable money. They think that it's just fabricated code that people are able to write and say, oh, I now have 10 Bitcoins, which is not really like that. So
No, it's not like that at all. That's not how the system is built.
yeah, so I think
So,
could we kind of go back maybe a little bit a step and kind of giving them a little bit more of an understanding as to how the system is built?
if you want to really know how the system is built, I suggest, and with any cryptocurrency that's legitimate has a white paper. A white paper is basically what what that coin is about, what functionality it's supposed to provide, what problem it solves. Always go back to that and read, the white paper for any cryptocurrency you're interested in, because if you believe in the functionality of the coin, then chances are a lot of other people do as well. Um, so reading those white papers will give you a really good understanding of how the coin works. And, sometimes it gets a little technical,
Mm-hmm.
but there's articles all over the place, blockchain for dummies.
Yeah.
You can read that article and it'll simplify it so that anybody can really understand it. The technology is very strong. It's extremely secure. Using crypto versus fiat is like, in terms of how you get your hands on it, it's very similar. And I would say crypto is even safer because it's irreversible. You're anonymous. Like, you can't, banks or governments can't freeze your assets for any reason. It's globally accessible. You can access it anywhere in the world as long as you have internet. And I mean, depending on the coin, it's like the value of it is usually controlled by, if that coin has a limit. Like Bitcoin has a cap of 21 million Bitcoins that'll ever exist, right? There are some coins that have unlimited caps, and those coins usually they're crap because nobody wants something that
Doesn't have a
is
limit because
exactly,
that's
and
where
that's the way
the
of
demand comes
knowing.
from. Yeah.
That's what demand. Yeah, that's where demand comes from. When something is limited, people want it. It's high. It's in high in demand because it's limited. But when it comes to fiat currency, a lot of people think that our
And when you say
currencies are
fiat,
limited.
I don't know if you want to give it a better explanation.
Fiat is any currency that is issued by
Okay. So government controlled currencies.
government controlled currencies, fiat currencies.
Okay.
A lot of people think that there's value or there's a cap on how much money can be printed by a government. There is no government on this planet anymore that
How's a
I
cap?
mean there may be I really don't know, but I doubt it. The U.S. for sure doesn't have a cap on how much money it can print.
Oh,
And
not
it's
at all.
not backed by gold anymore either.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So it's pretty much in a very similar stature. So could it just be that, the reason that crypto is getting that backlash from the banks is just that, if they were to replace the system that is currently in place, would it cause more havoc than good? I think that is a big thing. Is like if you were to replace all of the
No.
current systems, how would that not cause banks and other government agencies to crash due to that?
So those banks and other agencies that deal with money, they'll be doing the same type of business they already do. It'll just be with crypto instead of the U.S. dollar.
So could it
You
be?
know, banks are not going to go away. Banks are always going to be
Mhm.
useful. It's just their functionality, their functionality and how they serve, people is going to change a little bit. Because now there's no insurance on money. That's why when people say it's not as safe, is because in crypto your money is not insured, and that's because there's no one backing it. The only thing that's backing crypto is the network.
Is the
And if you
people that are
trust,
using the
yeah,
currency itself.
exactly, the network of people whose computers are running to keep this network up and running and creating more currencies and processing transactions, mining, which is what that is. So it's backed by the mob, you could say.
Yeah.
It's backed by a group of people who believe in something.
Rather than just being backed by some larger entity that we trust because we were raised to trust that as a society.
Yeah, we're raised to trust banks and governments, but as time goes on, people realize that banks and governments are made up of people too, and people aren't always perfect.
Yeah. So another question I wanted to get in is it was we kind of talked about is how it kind of impacts society or technology and crypto in general. More crypto, how can crypto impact society? I think we kind of gone over that and how blockchain tech can impact technology. But
Hmm.
what I wanted to get at was if how could the process of more and more people, I'm not saying only Bitcoin, using crypto impact its overall effect on society? What could come of it in the future for as a consumer and as a business owner?
So, okay, rephrase that in a smaller sentence.
What are the benefits then of using crypto as a consumer and as a business owner?
So, as a consumer, you kind of take all of those fees for if you go to ATM, you got to pay a surcharge fee,
Yep.
or if you want to do a wire transfer, you got to pay a wire transfer fee. And those are just basic fees that everybody has to pay. It differs by bank because certain banks charge you a fee if you don't have a certain amount of money in your account.
Overdraft fees. Yep. I think
The overdraft fees, if you stuff like that, all those fees are something that you're going to get away from if
so
you use crypto as a consumer. As
a business
in
owner.
this space, in this space currently, as a business owner, really you just be gaining, and I use these words loosely, but you'd be gaining equity if you were to accept cryptocurrency, because accepting cryptocurrency, if you believe in cryptocurrency, then it's kind of like a long-term investment that you believe your investment will go up with time. So the more, if you're accepting of crypto and its value, then at this point in time, in this young space, because Bitcoin's only 8 years old,
Ten.
you could
Yeah.
gain yeah, you could gain quite a lot. I mean, depending on your business, you can gain quite a lot of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency for that matter. Um, just doing the same stuff you do, same services you provide, you just accept crypto instead of fiat, and you just, you take that little risk that, because your money's not insured, um, and as long as you keep your internet connected devices secure, you should be fine. It's not any less safe in that regard. Computer can still be hacked, and someone could still hack your bank account.
Yeah, of course.
So that if they could hack your bank account, yeah, they could still technically hack your crypto wallets. So it's like you just got to keep your devices secure, and as long as you do that and treat them similarly, you'll be fine. But I've got to run. Got a meeting to go to.
That's no problem, man. I appreciate you jumping in, man. Even if it was just for that 30 minutes, I really do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Alrighty, guys. Well, yeah, he's hopping off now. I'll talk to you later, alright, boys?
Catch you later.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so we only got to squeeze out as much information as possible out of him, man. I tried to get as much as I could. I knew he was going to have to run eventually, but one of the things I was going to talk to him about after he just finished that was, I think when he says insured, when he says that your money isn't insured, it's like, certain currencies, like, fiat currencies, we're going to say government controlled currencies, are insured in the sense that they fluctuate. Money prices change, but they don't change that drastically. They can't go from, if the US dollar is at 1.98 to 1 to 1, sorry, if it's $1 is equivalent to $1.98 Barbados dollars, which is where I'm from, which is actually what we're locked to that. If that wasn't the case and we weren't locked to that, and currencies change, they fluctuate, whether or not it's like that may become 2.02 or that may become 1.96. That kind of fluctuation isn't as drastic. So I think when he says insured, it's because if you start accepting crypto as a business owner, who's to say that, because it is because it's very controlled by the population itself, not on just the government. It's controlled by the population and how people use it, how the demand is. Just like a stock market, the value of cryptocurrency can jump really high very quickly, and it can also jump really low very quickly. So I do see where he's saying that it's almost like a culture that you have to adopt to, the sense of cryptocurrency as a culture, as saying this is what the future will be. And people, you got to put yourself in the mind frame of someone in the, I don't know, 1920s or the 1900s or late 1800s, that are like now being introduced to this, global government managed currency, from instead of them used to, given ducats of silver or amounts of gold or gems and stuff like that. They had to make that jump, and they were a little concerned as in how am I know that I'm getting my true value. And now it's an even more difficult jump, because here we are saying, yes, you can start accepting this money, you're going to save a bunch of money on transaction fees, you're going to save a bunch of money on this and that and whatever else, but there's still a chance that because it's a market that is pretty much given its value due to the people in the market, it is entirely relied on the almost not the consumer base essentially, but the how to say it, the community, the cryptocurrency community. For maybe just Bitcoin, if you want to think about just Bitcoin, that Bitcoin community controls Bitcoin. If everybody in the Bitcoin community was to now sell out their Bitcoin for a super low price, that will drive the price down. Or even if just a large portion of them was to start to sell out, that would automatically cause the price to fall down. Now that's not the case for a lot of people selling currency for different currencies. Yes, it does have an impact on the market, but it is not as drastic as saying something that's worth $1,000 now becomes worth $5. And that is something that is very possible. Maybe not that big of a jump as quickly as that, but it can happen over a very small period of time frame than it could for a normal currency. So there's that lack of insurance, because we were luckily, I think last year or the year, I think it was last year, when crypto had jumped to its peak. Sorry, not crypto, Bitcoin had jumped to its peak value at, like, I think it was almost at one point valued at highest, I think was $19,000 for one Bitcoin. Let's actually look at the value of Bitcoin now, and I want to show you guys that jump. Bitcoin value. So Bitcoin right now is worth about $5,500. When the market spiked, I think you can see it right here. It's not going to show. I would like for it to show more than just that time frame. This is just 5 days maximum. So was I was off. I think it wasn't 19 then. I guess it was 17,000. So not quite 19. So it peaked at 17 grand. I think I'm a little bit off. I can't get it enough. Either way, between $17,000 and $20,000, and now it's valued at $5,000, and that was because of, you know, at that point a lot of people were starting to use Bitcoin. The demand became higher. It was almost like a fad, just like how I'm saying it's like a culture. It was like a fad that people had to jump on, and people were jumping on it, and then because there was that demand, a lot of people were asking for that. Don't say that. You'll make much more than that, I'm sure. Right now, you'll definitely make much more than that, man. But it was more of like a fad, so everybody was jumping on it and saying, yeah, I need to purchase Bitcoin. So therefore, they had millions of people, well, not millions, but thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people trying to get Bitcoin. But, you know, Bitcoin can only be purchased at a certain rate. You can't purchase Bitcoin fast like that. You have to be waited. You have to be in a queue. That's one thing that is a part of it that, you know, we can talk about more. I'm going to do a little bit of research on it after I take a little 5-minute break to get some water and use the washroom. But the pretty much essentially is that when that had, everybody jumped on that fad, everybody was jumping on it, that demand had risen. That demand was so high that the Bitcoin had no choice but to rise. It's a similar thing with stocks. Stocks is pretty much the same market as cryptocurrency, and that is why people are less lenient to jump on with this culture, because it is a culture. It's not, it is going to be, it can or won't be a way of life in the future. I don't think we're going to sit in this in between forever, guys. Right now we're in the in-between of some people people owning both cryptocurrency and using normal currency, or people using normal currency and then some people using no normal currency and only using cryptocurrency. And when I say normal currency, I'm referring to the same fiat currency that Boyce had informed us of, or government controlled currencies. So I don't think we're going to stay there. I don't think we're going to be in this medium for much longer. I could say maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 years until we either jump to one side, and I'm feeling like we're going to head up. There's no reason for us to jump down. We have, you know, whether or not everybody says that they, you know, we purchase gold, we purchase that. Everybody to this day still likes to buy gold and all that because it has value, but that is different. That's our view on gold. I know that but we're never gonna go back. We would never go back to a period in time where where I'm gonna go to the store and have to give a guy a ducat of silver for a sandwich. It's not gonna happen. It's just not how it's gonna work. Now that is why I'm in a more confident position to believe that in 10 to 15 to 20 years we're going to be heading towards that jump of cryptocurrency, that new era. And that's why I tell you, you know, if you guys are under the age of 18. Now is your time to try and get involved and learn more, especially with these lower currencies. I would recommend looking into Cardano. Let's look at it right here, real quick. Cardano currency. So this is Cardano, which is another company that, you know, has investments. It has a market cap. It's how much money has been invested in this cryptocurrency, into this company that has a token that comes with it. A lot of people assume that when, like Boyce pointed out, that a lot of these things that are incorporating blockchain technology don't even have tokens. They don't even have that currency. Bitcoin is that currency that is applied from the blockchain technology, that is gained from blockchain technology. Not essentially, that's what it is. It's a currency that has come up from using a type of technology within that networking. It's changed networking drastically. However, look at these. They have these smaller coins that are not worth a whole lot. But if you were to buy a large portion of these and to ride these coins out, if you trust the company more than the coin itself, that's pretty much what Pineapple, what I was referring to, is that it can jump high and jump very low, and that's where that lack of insurance is. And that's what Boyce was trying to tell us, is why people are more skeptical to jump onto it, is because it is, and why small businesses are a little hesitant to accepting it, is because I may go into a store and buy something when crypto is valued at $5,000, but by the time that business owner checks out and does his monthly quota and does that cryptocurrency's value has dropped, and in a sense they've lost money. And that is where that lack of insurance is. There's not that dedicated, this value is what it'll have at this point, and it will have this value for a longer period in time. Even though, yes, money fluctuates, it doesn't fluctuate that much. So there is that element of risk. It's almost like playing the stock market when you are a business owner that is accepting crypto. When you are a person that owns crypto, it is risky because, yes, you're investing your own money, or your money, your fiat currency, your government controlled currency, for a cryptocurrency. And when you invest that money, yes, that money can drop. It's just like investing into the stock market. Oh, sorry guys, I'm getting like a super headache in my right ear, behind my ear. But when you invest into the stock market, things change based off of who's investing. It's all that matter. Who's investing in this, who wants this, the demand for this. It's the same concept with crypto. So that's why people are a little bit less, people are more hesitant to jumping on that wave and be jumping onto this culture. There isn't that security of knowing, oh, a government, a country has said that this dollar is worth $2 or whatever, or this dollar is worth what it's worth. I can't believe I just said this dollar is worth $2. This dollar is worth what it's worth. When you hear that, you're like, okay, I trust that. I believe that. An entire country is telling me that. A government agency that's worth a countless amount of money and has a countless amount of resources is telling me that something is worth this. Guess what? I'm going to trust that it's worth that, and it's not going to. And they tell me that it's also not going to fluctuate that much. It's going to be stable. Of course, I'm going to jump on that. Of course, I'm going to say yes. That is easy. That's the easy route. But if you are in a stage where you think you are going to be able to ride this wave out for the next 20, 30 years, you could make a significant amount of money from being a part of this cryptocurrency culture. I like how when he said that it's more of like a culture. I didn't think about it like that. And yes, and despite people, I said that the main issue with people not jumping onto crypto is because they don't understand it. Yes, it's a lack of familiarity, but I think even when they do understand it, it's when you realize that there is risk. People just are hesitant to risk. No one likes risk. People prefer to just be stable. It is more comfortable to be just stable and know that this is just the way it's gonna be. People don't like that risk, and the people that do like risk tend to make a lot more money. That's the ironic part there, is that the ones that take those risks either lose a lot of money or make a lot of money. Risks is always a part of the game. You can, if you're okay with staying in the same zone and doing the same stuff, then yeah, stay with your money, with your tangible government controlled currencies. But if you're interested in playing the stock market and you've never played the stock market before, well, guess what? Why not join into a smaller space? Why not? That's like he said, this is a small space. Bitcoin has only been around since 2008, so 10 years. If you are in this space now, you can, stocks have been there's been stocks for years. Hold on, I just got a message on Discord. I like how it came through like 65 years later. But yes, if you're comfortable with that, then that's a-okay. I am spreading the crypto cult at this point. Yes, but it's, it really is that. I actually made a Discord for Techgician while I was speaking to you the first time. So yeah, don't get me there. Trust me, I did. As soon as you had told me, mentioned me about how I should have a Discord for the Techgician, I went ahead and made that. So I do have a Discord. If you would like the link, I can send you that as well. But while I'm on this rant, it is a culture, and guys, if you're young enough, ride the wave. Get involved in it. Jump onto some sort. And I just gave you a coin that whether or not this says minus 16%, this is a gold mine. It to be down, it's going to rise if you trust in the company. Find a company that is doing a token, that is using cryptocurrency or has a cryptocurrency, and see what they're actually using their company to do. What are they using their blockchain for? Remember, guys, the blockchain is how you develop the blockchain technology. What crypto is developed off of, and crypto comes from incorporating blockchain technology. The blockchain technology in Bitcoin's instance is every single block. Now, I think this is how Boyce explained it to me, and I'm gonna try and represent as much as I can. If there is a Bitcoin block, all right. So the first block, The first block had a, no transactions in it, 0 transactions. Then, so before the first block, there were miners. They were now starting to use the currency. Boy said it. They were using it as like basic tokens, as gifts, as almost like emojis in a sense, right? They were using it because people were mining. They were solving complex math problems. That's the basis. They were solving these complex math problems. They got rewarded with minors, nothing really major, and then they started to they use these rewards as emoji tokens. It's nothing super intense. But then it started to grow and grow and grow. But when the first block came into existence for their blockchain tech, I swear that you named your name. Rest in peace, Stanley. I'll do that just now. But yes, the first block contained the first transaction. So when those people were rewarded that block, that cryptocurrencies, that Bitcoin. So guys, if you're following with me, the miners were mining. They were by mining, they were solving complex math problems that needed to be solved. That by solving improved data mining as a whole, as a group, whether or not what these math problems were, they were doing work. They were doing work that essentially, I don't believe it. They were doing work that essentially gave them a reward. They were getting rewarded with a currency, a token that was applied to the company, Bitcoin, that was applied to that concept that they were using this blockchain technology. When they used the reward to send to a family member or a friend as an emoji, the first coin that was ever sent, even to the people that were getting them as a reward, became a block. Inside of this block had every transaction. Now, each transaction, each block, as it's mined, can be mined for 10 minutes. So you don't really know when the next block starts or where the last block ends. Well, you do know where it ends, but you don't know when the new block will start. It just depends on how many transactions are coming in. So they had to validate these transactions, and as they used the data from previous blocks to validate current transactions. And as that grew and grew and grew, the more people started to use Bitcoin, the more people started to become miners, the more demand there was for Bitcoin. People said, "Hey, this could be this represents money. This could be used similar to money." And as Pineapple mentioned, black market may have a large part to play in it becoming something as big as it was, because people saw it as that untraceable form of currency, and that is where everybody was like, yeah, okay, let's hop on that. I like that kind of idea. Let me write that. Let me see what I can use it for, that I don't have to worry about anybody monitoring what I'm using money for. Yes, that's what would have done it. And from doing that, they kept these transactions kept building and building and building in each block, and every single block they were doing work to validate the transactions. And that is where it continued to grow. And essentially, pretty much from validating its own transactions, it began to grow and grow and grow and grow. So that's where I have reached at. Now, other companies use blockchain technology differently. They don't only use, like how Bitcoin uses it for solving complex math problems. Boyce did let us know, the interviewee did let us know, that they use these complex, a lot of other smaller tokens use the same process as Bitcoin, where it uses the solving complex math problems. However, sorry, neck is killing me. However, there's other ones that don't and have applied blockchain to other means, and some of those don't even use currencies. Like Verizon is using it to just, I can't remember how they're using it. I read this the other day. They were using it to validate some sort of call signatures or something like that. They were using it to validate calls from certain phones as represented as nodes. Remember guys, each person in the network or in a Bitcoin network is considered a node. Every single person that has a computer that has, or a wallet, a crypto wallet that has Bitcoin on it, is considered a node within the Bitcoin or whatever crypto network that they have. So other ones weren't even using that. Some companies are just using the technology and weren't even applying it to a coin. They weren't applying the work that the blockchain technology was doing to anything. They were only applying it to benefit their own data, to benefit their own processes, to improve them, to make them more secure, those kind of things. But other ones realized that they could apply whatever work that they were doing by validating transactions from doing any bit of work, anything that was done that a computer did. They realize that they can associate to value because it is work that is technically replacing a human's work. And you would have to have paid a human to do those things that autonomously machines can do without any emotion, with almost guarantee, because we are human and we have to code things, and as we code things we make mistakes. But if you had to have human beings do every single process that is carried out in a blockchain, then you'll have a lot more issues than just the code having a couple of bugs. You'll have every single day someone else making a mistake, because humans are just naturally flawed and we make mistakes. So when it started to apply and people were like, okay, we can do all this stuff that is helping our business, improving our data mining, improving our everything for our company, improving our security, all that kind of stuff, and apply that work to a value, to a coin, to a token, that token just started to, if enough people started to use that token because they realized that it was worth something, it was doing something, you were doing something that resulted in this token being given a value, you continued to spend on it, people continued to use it, and then from using it, it grew and grew and grew. That is the essential point that is being made here. Without people being involved in cryptocurrency, there would be no cryptocurrency. There would just be blockchain technology. Blockchain technology can live on its own. I think that's what Boyce wanted to point out as well, that blockchain technology can live as a separate entity. It does not need cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is almost a byproduct of it, and it's funny because it being a byproduct is quite interesting, considering that whoever developed Bitcoin, whether or not is what is his name again? I like saying it. Satoshi Nakamoto. Whether or not it was, intended to do that, it probably was intended to be a coin. But the funny part about that is that the byproduct of it was the technology that it was using, and people saw the value in the technology it was using, not just the currency. Even though its intended was to be a currency. It was intended to replace banks because of certain crises that were going on. It was intended of cutting out middlemen so that people could be confident in their money, that knowing that their money is more safe and secure. Well, I wouldn't say more. At that point, more safe and secure than they were in banks. Because if you had any of your money in any of those banks that went under, you lost all of your money. So it was as a byproduct of that. So that was a result of that. They wanted to try and combat that. And then a byproduct of it was the technology that it implemented, being blockchain technology, which is a little bit mind-blowing to me that whoever invented this, whether or not it's a group of people, whether or not it was one person, if it was one person, that blows my mind. If they were able to do this and didn't know that the technology that they were using would be applied elsewhere, I find it hard to believe. I find that they knew that whatever it is that they were creating was more than just a currency. It was something that could benefit companies, could benefit every single different organization, and how they mine data, how they get data, how they validate anything they do. Anything that a human can do that can be done autonomously using a machine can be benefited from using blockchain technology. It's actually quite mind-blowing. I'm gonna, I want to get more involved in it. I have neglected getting more involved in it. I have a lot of relationships with people that are involved in crypto, and I've just for some reason just known about it and known the bits and pieces and nothing true about it, but didn't dive into it. And I think that anybody and everybody should take that chance. It's like dabbling in the stock market for the first time. You should try it. Don't knock it until you try it. Learn more about it, and then you'll see what can come of that. But I'm going to go and run off to the washroom really quickly. Let me add you quick. Said it couldn't find you. Pineapple. Alright, but I'm going to be right back, guys. And then I will finish up. I'm just going to go use the washroom real quick. Wait on me. Wait on me. See, that's weird. It mutes my mic again. Like, I just turned it over to... I'm going to have to send in a bug report to Streamlabs because it makes no sense to me. I literally, if I go to my starting soon page, and then which is set to have my mic muted, when I jump over to my other one, it keeps my mic muted, which makes no sense. I guess it's just defaulting the mic. But alrighty then. So it was pretty cool. I just spoke to my boss and about, you know, cryptocurrency. We kind of like just caught me when I was getting back from the washroom, and I was just getting into some details about it. And you know, one of the crazy things that he was telling me was that banks are really looking to adopt blockchain technology. You know, it's funny how we did say, you know, it's funny how blockchain technology came as a byproduct to cryptocurrency, and to the sense that people wanted that trading without, you know, being robbed, without getting that transaction fees, without all that kind of stuff. They were like, hey, we can't deal with this, we want to cut out the banks, let's do it. And as a byproduct of that, blockchain technology came, and blockchain technology provides that security, right? So what was interesting that he was telling me was then what happens when the banks start to apply blockchain technology. And they currently are. A lot of banks are attempting to do this, or well, not a lot, but a few banks are attempting to do this and incorporate it. We talked about a lot of organizations that are companies that have been incorporating blockchain technology into their companies, and banks are now going to be jumping on that train. So what happens when a bank starts, you know, saying that we use blockchain technology? Now, we could take that two ways. One way is that I don't really care because it won't affect me. Yeah, I kind of trust the bank already. I trust Chase to handle my money. I trust TD Bank or whatever banks you're using. I trust that bank to handle my money, and that my money is going to be secure. Now, there are cases where banks get compromised, and very rarely, but when they do and things go bad, then, you know, that's just the worst case scenario. But in a normal case, those aren't going to happen. So I wouldn't really see a bank, even though they're going to apply blockchain technology, as saying, oh, okay, I'm going to start using that instead of cryptocurrency because they're using blockchain. No, I think the real benefits of crypto is that lack of that transaction fee. There's no transaction fees. That security, and not that security, that lack of that security, but that lack of requirements to get a crypto wallet, to pretty much open an account with that cryptocurrency, which is the same as having that crypto wallet, or you know, having credit checks or anything like that. Like, and your name is also not tied to your account. That is the only stuff that I believe that's going to keep cryptocurrency alive. Now, you know, he mentioned to me that, because I was telling him that, well, doesn't that mean that one day that they can, that reason alone can be strong enough to take over banks and pretty much make banks less of a requirement? And he kind of said that that's not something that he believes, and I kind of agree with him with what he had to say, was because we pay for that comfort of knowing that there's that trust. Like, we just finished talking about how Bitcoin as that currency can fluctuate so readily, and it can fluctuate just based off of you know, how many people are in demand for that crypto and for that currency, or if there's no demand, or if there's a high demand, and it fluctuates like that. Now, when we, you know, oh jeez, keep stop losing my train of thought. But when we go to a bank, now we're thinking about in terms of banks, you know, they don't have, there's that trust, there's that confidence in knowing that my money is secure, my money was going to stay what it's worth. It's whether or not interest is going to grow my money or if it's going to depreciate my money. There's that confidence in knowing that things are stable, and I think that is the ultimate kicker when it comes to crypto. And that is why I'm confident it needs to be more of a culture. A cult. Oh no. No way did Pineapple just get me to call it a cult. No, a culture. A culture. Not a cult. Bitcoin. Sorry, cryptocurrency needs to be more of a culture for people to hop on and trust it. It needs that trust, and the only way for it to get that trust is for a lot more people to get involved. So if we ever reach that point, yes, I know I said cult. I didn't mean to say cult. Culture, which is just, I think cult just comes from culture. It just takes the URE off, and it's just like, yeah, we're making it a little drastic now. It's no longer a culture, it's a cult. No, but the crypto culture, it will be so essential to the survival and that push forward for using crypto, not just blockchain. Blockchain is another thing. We just said that how banks are going to start to incorporate blockchain. It makes sense. They're going to incorporate. It's going to be more secure, but they're going to lack on a lot of stuff. They're going to still have transaction fees that they're charging due to the trust. Remember, guys, they're going to say, hey, the reason we're charging these transaction fees is because you trust us. The reason that we're going to, whether or not we're not like Bitcoin that's going to fluctuate, you can trust us that we're going to be a-okay. Now, that is the only lack of, I don't think there's a lack of trust for crypto in general. It's just that things are, it's not in the concept of it. It's more the lack of trust in the value of Bitcoin, that it's going to just move too much and that people are just not happy with that. But if it became a culture that where, you know, everybody started to play on a currency that was malleable and can increase and decrease, you know, the world would be in a little bit more of a less stable manner, but it can have a lot of opportunity for growth, have a lot of opportunity for people to make a lot of money where they may not have been able to make any money, and people that, you know, rightfully should make money. But yes, it's definitely going to need to be a culture to combat that, because banks are eventually going to start to include blockchain technology, are going to, you know, use that to advantage, whether or not it's really not fixing the issue, because the issue is the middleman, the issue is the transaction fees, the issue is the fees for convenience. Why am I paying a convenience fee for you to accept my money, or for me to send my money? This is my money. Why am I paying you to do it? I guess, you know, that's the service. And Bitcoin wanted, and cryptocurrency, or well, Bitcoin in general, the first thing that first cryptocurrency wanted to be that substitute, wanted to be like, hey, we don't need banks, we can do it on our own. We're peer-to-peer, we're a peer-to-peer blockchain, instead of how banks are maybe going to incorporate it, where it will be like a local, their servers, their data servers blockchain within only their control. It won't be controlled by any other peers outside of the network. And that's, you know, that's where it's like, it's really hit or miss at this point. I'm excited to see, and I do think you should play on it. I think I'm gonna start playing with it more. I'm gonna invest a little bit more money into these cryptos, because I understand it more than I do the stock market. And as sad as that is, I really do. I don't know that much about the stock market. I understand what causes things to drive up and what causes things to go down, but I don't have a deep understanding. I don't have really a deep understanding for crypto, but I have more of an understanding for crypto. And if it's going to be a stock market, well, then I might as well play, because I know a lot of people that, remember, guys, I did bring up Cardano here, which is just a low-level coin. This is worth 6 cents a coin, right? This 6 cents, imagine you bought $1,000 worth of this coin, right? And Cardano as a company had a breakthrough in their blockchain technology, where they started to get a lot of investors, more than usual. These investments are going to drive the price up of the coin, because the value of the company has increased, right? So the value of the company has increased. More people are going to want the coin because they see that the price of the companies has increased, and their crypto is likely to increase, and people will drive the price up. So you bought $1,000 at 6 cents a coin, and then the coin jumps to $1. You do the math, guys. You do the math. If the coin was to just jump from 6 cents to $1, and you put $1,000 in, you're going to get a massive return. You're probably going to end up making, I don't know, must be like $80,000 off of that $1,000. And that's where the real money making options are. And I just think, you know, because it's a fresh space, there's a lot of room to lose money, there's a lot of room to gain money. And I think there's more room to gain money than in the stock market right now, because the stock market is just very saturated. I find, unless you have a real deep understanding for it, you either going to get lucky, or you're not going to make any money. You have to really do your due diligence. But crypto, you can just look for companies. Look for companies that have tokens. Look for companies that have that are now starting with incorporating blockchain, and they're using blockchain, and they have a low-level coin. Look at them and see what the company does, not what the coin does. Look at what the or not what the coin is worth. Look what the company does. What are they applying blockchain to? Is what they're applying blockchain technology to valuable? If it is valuable, and that you see that this can really apply in years to come, I can guarantee you that you should trust your gut. Well, not guarantee. I'm not guaranteeing with anybody's money, but you should trust your gut and say that, hey, I trust this company's idea, this company's vision. And as this company's vision is reached, if it's ever reached, I know that whatever money I have put in to their coin, that I'm going to get return. It's exactly, it's almost like putting money into their stock. It's, you know, I think I'm coming to realizations as I talk to you guys. You know, and I like doing that because essentially I am learning from talking to you guys and learning as I'm forced to have to learn. And I like that. I like that I'm here learning that I really see a very big tie to the stock market, but I see it more playable. I see it as not as super intense, and you know, really relying on consumers more than what a company can do, because consumers all the time want a a company that's incorporating blockchain technology for a specific aspect. Consumers may never see that as beneficial, but large companies that apply whatever it is that they're doing could, and as a result it will drive up much more than just the consumer. And while the stock market is really based on consumers, I like it, man. I'm about to go home and buy me 1,000 Bitcoin. I'm just playing. I wish I had 5 million. 5 million to spend on Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't spend it on Bitcoin, but yeah, I'll spend a lot of it on crypto, probably like 1 million now. But then the other 4 million, guess what, guys? Because of that trust, you know where it's going. It's going to the bank. It's just really, we live in this dilemma. I see it. It's just, you know, that trust is hard to bypass. It's hard to take that risk, and it's hard for anybody to take risks. And that's why we're just more really and truly okay with banks. We're just more confident in banks. And it's funny that it took something as drastic as banks to crash and to like lose all their reputation for people to be like, oh well, we should probably look at somewhere else, look at crypto. And then crypto really took that jump, really started to make that climb, and it still was a long and steady climb, but it took that initial, became viral in a sense. It took advantage of that opportunity, and it became viral. And for something like that to happen, to cause that, it's really interesting. It's interesting how human beings think about money. And I'm saying that as a human being, like, I can see why I would rather use a bank than cryptocurrency. Even though I know that it can save me money, even though I know I can make money, I am still so much more inclined to just be comfortable. And that comfort, I think comfort is a big wish on anybody's list, is having a level of comfort. And you can have that level of comfort with knowing that my money is my money, and my money is not going to change. I'm putting $1,000 in the bank, and it's going to stay $1,000, or even keep $1,000 in my pocket. I know it's gonna, when I take this out of my pocket, it's still going to be worth $1,000. But with crypto, I could see it being like, yeah, I can put this money in my wallet, and it's worth $5,000 a day, and then tomorrow it's worth $2,000, because the market just not crashed, but the market took a toll. There was a little bit of a little bit less of a demand. Things fluctuate, and unless you are willing to be patient, which a lot of the time is a big issue for everybody, including myself. Patience is a hard thing, and realizing that buying something at minus 16%, which means it's gone down, being patient and willing to wait a year to see what happens to it is a hard thing to do, but it can be very rewarding. And yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, because I don't know. I like the concept of what blockchain can do. I just think it could, relying on other nodes in a system, a network, creating a network to validate things, validate transactions, to do anything. Having a network to do anything with data mining is smart. It's just a smart way to do things. You can gain more data from having more nodes on the network, more people, more computers in the network. It's almost like a botnet, or similar to certain things, certain conspiracies, but we won't get into that. But it's like similar to that. It's pretty much, the more you have of it, that, like having that number of nodes on a network that can communicate with each other and do certain tasks, even if it's all the same tasks, can really accomplish a lot. Sometimes it takes running the same task 20,000 times to find the improvement, or to gain whatever knowledge was necessary. Like, you may have to run that task 20,000 times, but you have access to running that task 20,000 times. You wouldn't have access to running that task if you were, you know, relying on human beings to do it. Human beings are restricted to time. Yeah, man, it's pretty interesting. I like it. But I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from crypto today, and I'm gonna hop on to, I don't know, let's play Hearthstone maybe. Have you guys heard of Hearthstone? Are you familiar with it? Maybe we play a couple games of that. I haven't played it in a minute, so might as well. You know, I've kind of been talking about crypto for a little bit, and I'm glad that I learned something. You know, it's changed my perspective on it. Oh wow, I got Destiny 2. Did they just give out Destiny 2 for free? What's going on? Blizzard, was that Blizzard, or no, that was something else. I don't know what that was. Interesting. But yeah, we're still going to talk about some crypto and stuff like that if you guys want to. You know, if you have any, you know, Pineapple or Laundred, I don't know if you're still in the chat right now. But did y'all learn anything from the stream today, from our interview? Do you have any questions? Or you think you're going to be interested in, you know, diving into crypto, maybe investing a little bit of your own money into it? What do you think? Boy, my mind is a little bit blown, though. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? You guys must be playing a game of Fortnite, I believe it. Can't respond to your boy. So guys, if you've never played this game, it's pretty easy. It's just a card-based game. Pretty fun to play. These guys here, man, these shamans, they're rough.
Someone call for the doctor.
Come on, my guy. You don't want to verse? You don't want to play? But yeah, guys, I've always, you know, grown up playing these kind of card games, and they're, whether or not it was Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or whatnot, but they're pretty interesting.
Tazdingo! Yes!
You know, after this, I actually forgot that I wanted to watch this video with you guys. I actually did want to watch it, so I'm gonna have to retire here, my guy. Let me see.
Man! Job's done.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much gonna, you know, end this game. Sorry, man. I actually wanted to watch this video pretty badly.
My name is Bettina Warburg. I'm a researcher of transformative technologies and co-founder of Animal Ventures.
What they want.
I want to
You
skip
could have it on your
these.
computer, or you use Amazon,
Okay.
and so it's blockchain institutions. Right? We were much, yeah.
Blockchain.
We're going to talk about blockchain technology. Have you heard of blockchain?
I've heard of the words blockchain, but I'm not sure I know what it is.
So when we were much smaller societies, you and I could trade in our community pretty easily. But as the distance in our trade grew, we ended up inventing institutions, right? If you use Uber or you use Airbnb or you use Amazon even, these are just digital marketplaces and platforms that help us facilitate an exchange of value. But today we actually have a technology that allows us to trade one-to-one but at scale, and it's called blockchain technology. There is some kind of interface for it. You could have an app, or you could use your computer to do it. But instead of there being a company in the middle, or what's helping you make that transaction, is a bunch of software code. And so it's being run by all of these different computers that have like a node. So they're all running the same software and guaranteeing your transactions as they happen.
I mean, I would assume this technology is taking away business or activity from these middlemen.
In some cases, yeah, it is. And a lot of people in the financial industry in particular are looking at it from the banking side of how do we use this technology to trade things like Bitcoin or other tokens that are easier to use instead of today's currency. You know, a lot of people think about blockchain as Bitcoin
Yep.
because it's sort of in the news a lot and it's this new cryptocurrency and it's kind of exciting, but we're actually seeing a lot more use cases for blockchain that aren't around the currency side. They're more.
You see, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier, is that it's funny how Bitcoin and the inventors of Bitcoin used a technology that was a new technology. Blockchain didn't exist. Maybe it had been conceptualized, but it never was applied before. And then they said, okay, in order for us to make this currency that can be traded to anyone, anywhere, we have to incorporate some sort of technology, some sort of system. And they decided that they would run. Well, they decided they invented blockchain technology. And it's interesting how she's pointing that out, is that there are probably a lot more uses for blockchain that don't even tie to currencies. and I would like to see where those lead. Personally, one that was really cool that I thought of. Now, it may be a little bit far-fetched, and we're doing topics. One of our topics tomorrow is going to be quantum computing and stuff like that. I want to learn a lot more about that too, so I'm going to be just diving in, watching a lot of videos about it, and discussing it with you guys, because I don't know a lot about quantum computing, and I know it's about to change and revolutionize everything once it becomes something practical and something able for consumers to purchase quantum computers. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but what I was talking about, what I really wanted, one of the ideas that I came to understand, a cool one was, artificial intelligence. Quantum computing goes hand in hand with that. We're going to need quantum computers to help, push that artificial intelligence jump. And when I say artificial intelligence, I'm saying it loosely, guys, because I'm not actually talking about. It is artificial intelligence, but it's not a conscious intelligence, if you get me. It's not conscious. I'm not talking about creating some sort of ex machina or Terminator status kind of stuff. It's it's based off of what it's taught, or what it's that is pretty much what it goes at. So if you use blockchain technology, I see that you maybe could apply to a situation where you have you want to create a natural language artificial intelligence. And when I say natural language, I'm saying, would I be able to say to this computer, hey, I'm not feeling so well today, and it be able to be able to respond to that, or like give me a response to it, to understand what kind of emotions I may be feeling, whether or not we could tell, well, not all the time, but we can tell, or we can infer that maybe that person is not feeling well due to illness, due to something that happened. You can usually read that. That may be not such a good question, but it's more of a difficult one. But still, there's that humanistic aspect to it, to understand that question and the tone in which it was asked, the words that were used, all those kind of stuff. If they use blockchain technology to have all of these computers on this network, every node on this network is programmed to to gather information based off of a set of questions, or and that set of questions is constantly growing, and it's constantly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, couldn't we apply that to blockchain, to that, in a sense that the more computers that are asking these questions, the more data that we're getting. We're not going to be mining cryptocurrency in this sense, but we're more going to be mining data, and we're going to feed all this data to this natural language artificial intelligence, and improve it and improve it and improve it. And I see that as being, I'm not going to lie, I kind of would believe that they're probably doing this right now. Like, it kind of makes sense that they would do something like that. So that was one of the things that I liked about it. So I just wanted to point that out to you guys. That was my opinion. I think it's cool.
More around how do you take any asset and be able to trade that using this same technology?
Is there a mechanism for verifying that person A is a legitimate seller or producer of the item?
So today, a lot of people are working on how to create identity structures that leverage blockchains. And one of the tools for doing that is being able to cryptographically sign for a given attribute. So your government could sign that you have a US passport, or a university could sign that you are a currently enrolled student. And you could then dole out that information and control it yourself, and be able to show people those certifications on an as-needed basis.
Oh, cool.
So today we're going to talk about blockchain technology.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of blockchain?
I have. Whenever we have a transaction, and let's say I buy something from you, this information gets logged and it gets verified by a third person or third party. And then if like all this information verified and it all matches, right, the transaction goes through without any intermediary, basically, right? And it gets stored. And when we make further transactions, this information is already embedded. It's in the ledger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you can append it. You can sort of add new information that's more current, but you can't actually go erase anything.
Absolutely right. The way the technology is changing, nothing's going to be like it used to be. And there's no like firm and then the buyer and the seller, and it's basically we'll have to rewrite a lot of rules in economics as well.
For sure. A lot of the assumptions won't hold true. Same
Absolutely.
with who are the actors. It's not just people anymore, it's machines.
Absolutely.
We're going to have to create entire new concepts of how they do trade and how they work with us too.
You see, and that is probably like a super big like downside to it, is it's just like how do we go about, and I think that's why it's just easier for banks to adopt it. You know, banks to adopt blockchain technology, not to adopt cryptocurrency, because there's going to be no need for them to do that. They'll just apply their current currency. But having banks adopt blockchain technology would make the process easier, I believe, because they have the understanding, the economic structure. They understand the economic structure, so they'll be able to make the changes that are necessary to keep that. Well, not to keep the economic structure, but to mold that economic structure into what it needs to become. If you have no idea about this economic structure, of course you can learn and all that, but if you're a bank that has been involved in the economic structure that we use to this day for a long period of time, then you have more insight on that. So I do see that's why, you know, cryptocurrencies will constantly get hit back, because they just don't have the knowledge to apply it to the economic structure. They can't alter the economic structure in a way that would work for them without having the means to do so, and banks may have the means to do so, but they're not going to want to use cryptocurrency. They're probably just going to like hop onto blockchain because they like the concept, they like how it can validate transactions, it can make them more secure. It's funny how they're trying to hop onto something to make it use blockchain to make it more secure, but everybody wants to tell cryptocurrencies that they're not secure. It's ironic, but nonetheless, the way that cryptocurrencies apply blockchain may not be as secure as how a bank would apply it. A bank would keep it more not, you know, open source. You won't be able to actually access their blockchain, like how everybody that joins the Bitcoin network can access the blockchain. It won't be like that. Banks would make it a enclosed, a centralized thing, which is what it goes against entirely what cryptocurrency was founded on. It's founded on making that decentralized, a decentralized banking, pretty much. And there we go. We're back to the centralized thing. So it's going to be a tough road, and it may not work out in cryptocurrency's favor. That's the truth. But there is no reason to not ride the wave and take the risk to see. We're young enough. I'm speaking for myself. I'm young enough to know that it could be very much worth it to ride out this wave, to jump on, to play the market a little bit and try ride out the wave.
What kind of barriers or roadblocks would you imagine are going to happen in the blockchain space?
So at least when we talk about Bitcoin, there are some trust issues. There have been some hacks, and
there are no hacks.
So there is obviously a need to work on trust and feeling that it's a safe technology.
Yeah, one of the problems that Bitcoin has faced is Bitcoin's getting stolen or lost. But a lot of that actually comes from
the user.
People trying to re-centralize Bitcoin in different ways, making themselves actually a pretty easy target.
Absolutely. So education will be a big part before we actually can use the technology in a wide sense, right?
Yeah. To actually transition into the mainstream and make it useful for average people to use, we're going to need to make sure we have a lot more education, a lot more standards, and probably work with a lot of enterprises to create sort of the user experience around this being a technology that is safe and usable and understandable. What is the current state of blockchain in your understanding? What's going to happen next?
The current state is in the research state, and it's being developed to be applied in many areas. It might be used almost everywhere, to where like we won't even imagine how we lived without it. But I'm not sure where it's going to go. I mean, no one really knows, right?
Well, we have a lot of public blockchains. Like we have Bitcoin, we have the Ethereum network, NXT, but a lot of companies and consortiums are getting together to build private blockchains, so ones that are more closed off at first and then may evolve into a public network when people feel comfortable using it. And some are also proof of concepts out in the real world, projects in energy and in pharmaceuticals and in retail and lots of different fields are starting experiments, and we'll see in the next few years how all of those interact and what we learn about the best use cases for blockchain and what it means for trade. So tell me your version of a technical definition of blockchain.
A technical definition of blockchain is that it is a persistent, transparent, public, append-only ledger. So it is a system that you can add data to and not change previous data within it. It does this through a mechanism for creating consensus between scattered or distributed parties that do not need to trust each other, but just need to trust the mechanism by which their consensus is arrived at.
Oh, wow.
In the case of blockchain,
I'm not gonna lie, guys. How he just explained that was really made a lot of sense. I like that.
Relies on some form of challenge such that no one actor on the network is able to solve this challenge consistently more than everyone else on the network.
So it randomizes.
Yes, yeah, it randomizes the process and in theory ensures that no one can force the blockchain to accept a particular entry onto the ledger that others disagree with. One that relies on a mechanism for a peer-to-peer network that can maintain updates to the ledger and then verify those updates in such a way that it is impossible to defraud and impossible to alter after the fact.
And do you see it as defining a new discipline of kinds, or where are we going to see blockchain emerge in the real world first?
I mean, just so like as an example, one thing that I think about a lot in terms of possible blockchain applications is electricity. Right, the next generation of distributed smart grid technology, effectively.
Sure, and people are working on that
yes,
already.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this very fruitful area of research, and you can find yourself looking like 20 years out, right, where you have an enormous number of electric cars. You have all of these batteries. Like that's essentially a distributed peak load power grid, right? Like the cars are getting plugged in and unplugged at different times. If you have a mechanism that is able to automatically and autonomously be distributing power based on batteries that are scattered throughout the grid, that are being used for other purposes. Their owners don't even necessarily need to be aware. You begin to have something that looks like a much more viable society that still has a lot of electricity needs, but is able to base that much more on renewables, is able to make up the difference during peak load periods or during differences in weather, that is able to have power much closer to where it's needed rather than having to be distributed over great distances. Like, that's something that would be an enormously hard problem to solve.
Wow.
And it's not that the blockchain makes it easy, but it makes it possible.
A lot of people are seeing blockchain in the news and maybe seeing a lot of sort of initial coin offerings, this sort of monetization opportunity around blockchain, and are getting very excited about it. Now, some of that excitement is real and should be, you know, encouraged, but some of it is also hype. How do you feel about the hype cycle around blockchain today?
I'm glad you mentioned initial coin offerings because for me those really exemplify the sort of the problem that we're having at this exact moment. They are an idea with enormous potential significance down the road. However, the promise of the initial coin offering has been kind of hijacked into this string of like basically pump and dump scams or sort of desperate gold rush schemes. The faster that we can shift from
guys, there was a huge thing about Bitcoin Connect, and if you weren't familiar with what Bitcoin Connect was, it was saying that they could purchase your Bitcoin and would give you their token, Bitcoin Connect. So what was it, BTCC instead of BTC, which is Bitcoin. They would buy your Bitcoin for their currency, their Bitcoin Connect, and essentially hold your Bitcoin. And from holding your Bitcoin, they would improve its value. It was almost like trying to say that the more people that gave them their Bitcoin, the more of the Bitcoin network they ran. Well, they not controlled because they didn't have the computers, but they had more of the value. They possessed most of the Bitcoin, but essentially they didn't. But the Ponzi scheme was that they were saying that they were rapidly increasing the value of their own token, and you were looking like you were making a lot of money. The only issue is when you would try to cash out, there would be like a 1-year lockdown on the cash out. Eventually, the Ponzi scheme fell apart, and what they were doing was just paying old investors with new investor money, which was making old investors inclined to continue the Ponzi scheme. And it is a big issue, and it is really what has put such a damper on cryptocurrency. And I think crypto has, I'm now realizing throughout having this conversation with you guys that crypto has pretty much kind of beat down blockchain technology. It's put a dampen on it because people are like, oh, they hear blockchain and they automatically associate it with crypto, which is justified because crypto is a byproduct of blockchain technology. But when they realize that when they hear the words blockchain, they associate it directly with crypto, and they're like, oh, that's not for me to listen to. I'm not about that. But the way that this guy, this expert level, just explained a scenario that can be used for controlling electric cars distribution for like batteries during peak moments, so that there's no surplus of electricity being used, is a very good idea. It makes a lot of sense, and it has nothing to do with crypto. Maybe it could eventually tie somewhere where, the more the more electricity you save, or the more that you don't charge your car during peak times, you're rewarded with a crypto. See, I think that's where it could lead, and that would always be the thing, trying to give people incentive to do things. People always need incentive, and I think that is why Bitcoin kind of took off, was because it gave them incentive. The more they did, the more Bitcoin they got, and they knew that the more Bitcoins they had, the more people that joined the network, the more Bitcoins would start to be transferred, the more that the demand would increase, and the more mining would have to be done, and i.e. they'd make more money. But it really and truly has put a dampen on blockchain technology, and I think I should have changed this entire stream session to focus more on blockchain technology rather than cryptocurrency. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's talk about quantum computing. I have minimal knowledge on quantum computing, and I really want to learn more, and I want to dive into stream, and I know I had a little bit more idea as to what crypto was for this session, but for our talk tomorrow, I'm pretty much going in kind of blind. I do know some stuff, and I'm familiar with what it can do. It's still very relatively new technology. I will be using a lot of videos, a lot of articles to kind of guide my conversation, but throughout tomorrow's session, it's going to be learning, and I really want to emphasize how much I was able to learn today from talking with boys, from talking with you guys, from talking, pretty much just talking. I was able to come to my own realizations, and these videos have truly helped me. So guys, it's amazing what just talking out loud can do.
This fantasy that it is going to make you rich in a sort of 1920s tulip bubble kind of way is the sooner that we can get into people, honestly, and I mean this like with all the hope in the world, people being disappointed in blockchains. Like, oh, I didn't get rich. It's just being used now to make it easier to transact goods and services safely across borders. This isn't exciting at all. And then we'll see that like become part of the everyday infrastructure of the world in a way that I think will be very significant. But I think it is now almost every aspect of it that's connected with the concept of money is wildly overhyped.
Yeah.
And
it also creates a problem, which is people get a lot of excitement around it, and then they're waiting for the world to change, right? Where is this technology? Why haven't I seen anything change yet? And it's because we've had a lot of PR, a lot of proof of concept, but truthfully, this is more like a science, right? It will develop, it will take 5 years, it will take 10 years. That kind of time is necessary. One of the areas that brought me to supply chain research is the fact that we're not just going to see blockchain emerge, we're going to see artificial intelligence continue to evolve. We're going to see connected devices and this sort of growing Internet of Things, machinery that can do a lot more and have a wallet and transact on their own. And so I actually think a lot of where blockchain and other technologies are headed is this interesting synergy that will help us elevate the kinds of institutions we've used in the past and cobbled together to
rather
create
than
that
beat them down.
Identifiable, verifiable trust.
Yes, and one of the most interesting ideas to me that came out of the currency side of the blockchain project was the notion around like coloring coins, right? Assign properties to a particular coin, and in particular to assign those properties in ways that would allow you to do things like bring in the graph of previous transactions.
Right.
You know, there's sort of an obvious application for this, which is something that would look a little bit like an extreme version of like a boycott, divestment, and sanctions kind of approach, right? A model where it's sort of like, I will not touch money. My wallet wallet will automatically not touch money that has been
Right.
exchanged with the following, as a sort of very extreme way of cutting those things out. But there's also ways in which I think that could be applied to clearing out the entire logistics process of many kinds of bad actors. But trying to make a supply chain better in some ways relies a lot on whose version of better that is, and exactly kind of what gets qualified, but also how that is quantified within, say, some kind of like smart contract system. There's multiple ways that I could see this backfiring, and one is the ways in which that is implemented, for example, leaving certain kinds of bad behavior untouched or unanalyzed, or one that feels even more dire to me in some ways, is creating an extremely inflexible, because human contracts, legal contracts, are actually very flexible. Like there's a lot of kind of room
Lots
to
of
move and
conditions
renegotiate.
and-
Yeah, but we already have real world versions of some of these nightmare scenarios, right? Where like your kid has a medical emergency and you can't unlock your car because you're 2 days behind on payments for it. And so the car system will no longer respond to the app mechanism that you're supposed to be able to use to drive
So the
it.
barrier being sort of a rigidity in
Yes.
those structures that maybe don't accommodate real life scenarios very
Emotional.
well.
As
Yes,
you and I
it's
have
a
been
lack of
talking, one of the
emotion.
things that keeps coming up is that we tend to hold novel technologies to an unrealistically high standard in terms of what they are supposed to deliver, rather than comparing them to actually existing systems where we can begin to see the possibility that even like a slight incremental improvement would still be an enormous gain.
The system we have today is also broken, right?
Yes,
and that
yeah.
it's hard to compare it to some perfect future, just like we compare autonomous vehicles to this very high standard.
Yeah.
Because machines are doing it, it should be perfect, right?
Yeah.
There should be 0 car deaths.
Yes,
And
yeah.
when you say, well, there's hundreds of thousands, millions of car deaths on the road due to human error
Mm-hmm.
today, I think we're in a similar place. We're going to see problems with this technology, and we are going to need to develop
A level of
multiple
trust.
kinds of standards that also have
Yeah.
some flexibility, but it's going to also be a version, a system that allows us to fix some of the things that are broken today.
You see, she just brought up a really interesting point. I think, regardless, human beings just they really put these things to such a high standard. When we see what computers can do, and it's almost because we've seen what technology can do, and we know that it can do so much, but we've never been in an experience where we've seen how. Well, I wouldn't say never, but we have never been in we haven't been in so many experiences where we can say the bad that is done. There are a lot that's bad that comes from technology, whether it be people getting their information compromised, etc. There are a lot of bad, but most of the time there is a significant amount of good that has drowned out that bad. One of our viewers today mentioned that we should make a topic about the dark web, because a lot of people don't even know what I mean by dark web. They don't even know that what search engines that you're currently using to search up anything, your Google Chrome, your Edge, is only a fraction of the information that's out there on the internet that can be accessed. And of course, it is a safety precaution that you don't go on the dark web, and I recommend you maybe learning about it and understanding what else is out there. But we have really and truly idolized technology, and for that reason, technology doesn't have room for error. And when there is error, everybody just rather wash their hands of it than improve it. It's different. And I'm not referring to like basic bugs. I'm talking about true errors that affect people's lives. Those are things that truly distort people's opinions on technology. And it's just going to be quite a process to get to the point where we trust technology more than we trust human beings, because human beings are very flawed. And computers that are programmed by human beings will be flawed, but because they're programmable and you can witness what they're doing and you can see all this kind of stuff and you can see the data, they are almost fixable in a sense that they can be improved. Human beings, however, are hard to improve. Human beings that have already been grown to live a certain way. It's a very hit or miss scenario. But that pretty much wraps it up for today. I learned a lot about cryptocurrency today, and I hope you guys learned some stuff too. I'm excited for tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't be having a guest speaker for tomorrow, it was kind of hard to find someone about quantum computing. I am familiar with quantum physics. I did study quantum physics, but which it is applied in some form or fashion to quantum computing. But tomorrow, I may be going in a little bit blind. I'm gonna get as much articles and read as much as I can. I do know some stuff, but I am gonna spend tomorrow learning with you guys about what is quantum computing, and maybe towards the end we can see how quantum computing will apply to blockchain technology. But yeah, that is pretty much it for today. So please tune in at 1:30 tomorrow for our quantum computing discussion. I hope you enjoyed it today, and as always, guys, peace.